some movie, Friends, second grade, like this. And then one of us gets himself in potentially big trouble. And now we've got to deal with it. We've got to test our loyalty against all odds. It's kind of exciting.
I knew my own tonality was going to have a different feeling to it than a lot of the other performances in the film, but I also knew that that would work within that story.
Hey guys, Brandon here, and I love Crispin Glover. I already made a whole video about his career, and he's been one of the only actors I've covered who have reached out to me personally. We've kept in touch with one another over the years, and I even got the chance to do a quick interview with him, which is included later in this video. But before we get too ahead of ourselves, let's go back to 2018. I was in the zone editing a video, and I had mindlessly drank maybe 5 glasses of wine. The Cabernet. I don't know, it was red. I don't know wine. The phone rang, unknown number, and it was Crispin. I think he called me because I had let him know that I was in Los Angeles at the time, but truth be told, I don't remember a lot of the conversation. I just remember trying to keep up with him as he just talked about his favorite movies and older character actors he drew inspiration from, his upcoming screenings of his film What Is It?, and his book that he was working on at the time, which was apparently going to have some addressing of the behind-the-scenes controversy of his involvement in the Back to the Future franchise. After an hour or so, we hung up, and I stumbled to the bathroom to vomit and sat in the shower for maybe 45 minutes, convinced that my conversation with Crispin was a fever dream. This is the kind of disorientation I felt when I first watched the 1986 drama River's Edge.
Jamie is dead, damn it! And there's nothing that we can do to save her. Now I happen to like Jamie, but John is still alive. Don't you see that?
I didn't know what to make of it. I was confused, sick to my stomach. I think I remember just feeling depressed. The second time I watched it, I felt like I got it, and Crispin's performance is electrifying. Some may not connect with it, thinking that it's over the top. I think that it's a misunderstood tour de force performance that says everything that needs to be tour de force. I use that two hyphenated 3-word phrase too much, and I think I just use it because I see other people use it. Tour de force. I think it's a tour de force. I'm going to stop saying that phrase. I think it's a misunderstood performance, let's say that says everything that needs to be said about how to approach material as an actor and do something that nobody expects. But before we kick back with a warm beer and get into this mess,
Oh, it's warm even.
I just want to thank everybody again for watching and supporting this channel. This is really awesome. I appreciate you guys rating and liking, subscribing, all the usual stuff. And as a reminder, we do have a Patreon. If you like what you see and feel like contributing, just check it out. We've got some fun rewards. Released in 1986, River's Edge is inspired by a true story and takes place in this small, gray, foggy, do-nothing town and revolves around a friend group of aimless teenagers who spend their time drinking, smoking weed, and dreaming about just getting away from it all.
We could just take all our parents' money, take off, discover America, and make like we're Easy Rider, kid +5.
One of the friends, John, this Neanderthal of a guy, strangles his girlfriend to death. He then shows his friends the body, and their kind of mixed response to it, there's kind of apathetic, almost nihilistic reaction to it, is pretty much the thread of the film.
You crazy motherfucker, John.
Nobody initially goes to the police. Nobody knows what to feel, or even how to feel, whatever emotion they should feel. The movie explores why, and what happens as a result. Keanu Reeves' character is our hero, if you can call him that, who seems to be the only one really struggling with the decision to keep it all a secret. However, on the other side of the spectrum is Layne, played by Crispin Glover, who takes charge and immediately wants to cover up everything for his friend.
Okay, listen up. Got a lot of people here. Bury her. so she's never found.
At first glance, Crispin's performance may be confounding. He's so big and expressive, it's like he's in another universe. Well, in addition to other substances, his character is consistently popping speed pills, so that explains some of it. And can I just, as a side note, say how good he is at being high on speed? Not that I know, but I don't know, it looks amazing what he's doing. His paranoia is off the charts, and his eyes are always darting somewhere else like he's a meerkat about to be devoured. But even when other characters are talking to him, he's just there, but not there. It's definitely funny, but it also makes his character dangerous and unpredictable.
Get out!
But there's another aspect to this performance that really makes it great, and it has to do with how Crispin approaches material in general. Some background on this little scamp. When Crispin was first starting out acting in the early 1980s, he was almost a guy out of time, out of sync with really just the time-space continuum in general. Like from the ages of 15 to about 20, Crispin's exposure to the world of acting was colored by what he would watch at revival screenings in Los Angeles. While other filmgoers were maybe checking out Empire Strikes Back, or Superman 2, or Cheech and Chong's next movie, he was watching Citizen Kane, Freaks, The Apartment, Sunset Boulevard. He studied the performances of Jack Nicholson in Easy Rider and Five Easy Pieces, Brad Dourif in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and he would apparently attend midnight screenings of Eraserhead on a weekly basis. In a 2012 interview for Sundance, he said, "These films and performances characterized the atmosphere of cinema and acting I believed I was stepping into as a young actor." If you watch this video, no offense, Crispin, I'm just trying to do like this exaggerated impersonation of your voice. Crazy motherfucker, John. You crazy motherfucker. Of course, he was not stepping into the gritty, rebellious golden age of film in the 70s that would question social norms and culture. This was the 80s, man. And if you were a teenage actor in the 80s, things weren't as heavy.
This is heavy duty, Doc. This is great.
This is why you had Crispin, a creature all his own and a sponge for classic and raw performances alike, giving an undeniably strange yet perfect, one-of-a-kind performance as George McFly in Back to the Future.
Give me a milk. Chocolate.
His background is also why he had the integrity, nay, the testicles, to voice his disapproval of what he interpreted as a materialistic money-solves-everything finale. Well, hey, Marty's family is rich now. He's got that cool truck, man. Dave's going into the office. That goober's going into an office. And then George McFly is successful, sci-fi writer, confident. Lorraine is just kind of hot now and sexy. And his sister has a lot of boyfriends. Well, things turned out for the better there. That's good. Anyway, whether or not Crispin's feelings about the ending of Back to the Future were a factor or not, after it came out, Crispin wanted to do something different.
It was not too long after Back to the Future had come out, and at that point, after that film had come out, I'd kind of, and that it had made a lot of money, I felt a certain obligation to finding something that somehow psychologically reflected what my own interests were.
Crispin was very interested after reading the script to River's Edge, and the filmmakers were ecstatic that they may have this huge star fresh off of a blockbuster film to really help lift their film off the ground. After deciding that Layne would be an interesting character, Crispin worked on it for a couple weeks before auditioning, and his approach to the character was kind of polarizing at first.
And the producers and I, were sort of stunned by the audition, and we just kind of looked around and did a double take. And then we went through a process where we had to decide whether this fairly radical interpretation of the character would work for the film and what it would do to the balance of the film if we cast him.
I love director Tim Hunter here. You could just see he seems stressed out even talking about it. Like they could just see the oncoming storm. They eventually cast him, but there was still hesitation from the director when they started shooting.
I do remember after the first take, Tim came up and said, are you sure that we should maybe do it in this other way? I said, no, we talked about it. We agreed. And
here's the clincher. On the page, the character of Layne is a guy who kind of served as a false moral center, simply wanting to help his friend cover up a murder. But Crispin went a step further, as he explains in a 2015 Nerdist podcast interview.
The intention of the character originally was essentially, as written on the page, to help his friend. What I played instead was a person that wanted to get attention for being a good person for helping his friend. That's a totally different way to play it. And now Neil Jimenez, who's a great guy, wrote the screenplay, and he openly talked about this in a very nice way at some screening later on. He said, and I knew this when we were shooting it, he thought I was ruining the movie. And there are people that have watched the film that's, I've seen the comments. People think some people hate the performance. But very nicely, he came back and said, now I think it makes the film, or something to that effect, which was a very nice thing for him to say. On some level, I'm playing a character that's playing something. It can look like acting in a way, but sometimes that's okay because sometimes people do that.
That's pretty brilliant. I mean, he's playing a character who is playing a character. There are even micro examples of this when he interacts with other characters. In one scene, he approaches Feck, an eccentric drug-dealing hermit played by Dennis Hopper, to buy some weed.
Oh, come on. No, dude, I came by to see how you're doing. Good old Feck,
How much you want?
Just a couple joints.
It's almost like Layne thinks he's in a movie. It's as if he sees himself as the star of this big thriller about friends helping cover up a murder.
It's kind of exciting. I feel like Chuck Norris,
But the thing is, no one else is playing their part. Everyone's just real, and kind of it's apathetic, and they don't know how to deal with it, and Layne's the only one on another wavelength.
This is us we're talking about. We're a team. We're like Starsky and Hutch. None of us is gonna f it up on purpose.
It's kind of the opposite of a movie like The Big Lebowski, where every actor is giving this heightened, specific performance as if their characters are wrapped up in this high-concept, whodunit dramatic thriller. But the dude, didn't get the memo. That contrast is what makes the movie funny. Similarly, a lot of the comedy of the film comes from Layne. He's deluded, he's high out of his mind, impatient and upset with other people for not feeling or acting the way he wants them to. I mean, when you look at it like that, the performance makes total sense. Another interesting thing is how Crispin's interpretation of Layne affected the balance of the story.
How about if John just stays here? I'll go figure this thing out. John! I don't want you showing your face outside this house.
Now let's take a look at Dennis Hopper for a minute, who's amazing this, by the way. I think he did Blue Velvet the same year, and he had just recently gotten sober before they started shooting, so he was sharp as hell. His character, Feck, this possibly dangerous drug dealer in this kind of town weirdo, I guess you could say, he claims that he's on the run for killing his girlfriend years ago.
I killed a girl once. It was no accident. Put the gun right to the back of her head, blew her brains right out the front. I was in love.
I strangled mine.
Did you love her?
She was okay.
Feck really begins to shine when he spends time with John as they're hiding from the police. As strange and despicable as he is, even he doesn't understand why John would kill his girlfriend and not say anything.
I loved her. So why'd you kill her? She tell you to eat shit? No.
If Crispin had played Layne straight like it was on the page, his character would have been the personification of this false moral center of the story.
His interpretation of it was so radical that no longer was the case, and Dennis Hopper's character, as perverted as the guy was, really becomes the moral compass of the film in an odd kind of way. Casting Crispin changed the balance of the film, but obviously works.
Now the question remains, a question that viewers and critics alike have asked about Crispin's performance. Was it too over the top?
Why do you think it is that Rush is gearing up to kick our asses, man?
Drink your beer, Layne.
No, I won't drink my beer. I'm talking here.
I don't think it was, but there's another way to look at it. Writer-director Richard Linklater is a huge fan of the film and had a screening/discussion about it for the Austin Film Society in 2015. And on Crispin's performance, he had this to say.
I don't think about that. I don't think like, oh, is he too over the top? I just accept him as a real guy and go, wow, that's like that f*** up guy you might have grown up with, like all these, the whole group of them. I respect it so much because I think it just captures, if you can really think, that 16 to 18-year-old mindset where sex and death are so close and so romantic and yet intriguing. You don't know anything about the world, but you kind of feel it's all in your face,
It's almost like Layne is a little 10-year-old kid in a teenager's body. Like he's trying to act like an adult, but he's really just a child. This little exchange right here between him and Keanu Reeves' character's little brother really showcases that immaturity. Like he's trying to mask or imitate adulthood.
You keep your little mouth shut, you hear?
Oh, what?
You know. Tony told me you know.
Oh, the death. Don't worry, I'm with you.
I'll trust you.
Spoilers, as the story continues, the friends end up caving to the police, who have been putting together the pieces. Meanwhile, Crispin, in a perpetual state of just drug-fueled paranoia and anxiety, drives all night looking for John. He eventually meets up with all his friends the next morning at the same river where John murdered his girlfriend and has this eruption of emotions.
You don't know what's going on. None of you know what's going on. I'll find it myself.
Another interpretation here. Did Layne want to be John? Perhaps Layne fantasized about murdering someone, then all of a sudden his friend John did it. So if he helps John get away with it, maybe then Layne could get away with it too. Maybe he's secretly hoping that if he ever kills somebody, his friends would stick up for him in the same way.
I should kill you for even saying that.
Oh man, you're talking shit, and you know it!
You turn on us so easily. I thought you were a f***ing friend. I knew that me and John were alone all along.
Then he discovers John's body nearby, and once again has this confusing mixture of emotions. It's like when he's uncomfortable, he laughs.
They killed him.
And the last we see him, the coroners carry away John's body, and Layne just lies down on the rocks, almost as if he's that dead body, also being carried away by the current. Hi, Crispin.
Hi, Brandon. How are you doing?
I'm good. Well, thanks again for calling. I really appreciate you taking the time out.
Yeah.
They said that you spent around 2 weeks or so, working on Layne before auditioning. So during those 2 weeks, I was just curious what the process was like in creating Layne.
I would say the character of Layne, as it was written in the screenplay, was less humorous than how I ended up playing it. But there's that famous adage, play tragedy like comedy and comedy like tragedy. There's a performative aspect to what the character's doing because of the intention switch. I'm bringing the attention to myself, which is a self-serving intention. That's what was not in the screenplay.
Yeah.
That's what the intention switch was. And nowadays, there's a term for it, which wasn't around when we shot the film, virtue signaling. That's the term for it.
I never asked you to do it, Layne.
Friend doesn't have to ask a friend. Do something like that.
I'm not sure how apparent it is to everybody else, but I think it's apparent, and I think there's humor to that. I think that's funny.
I was curious if you created a background for Layne, like any things that helped you, but you didn't let the audience know.
Yeah, I did. You know, it was pertinent to that which is in the script, and there were certain clues in the script. But the character of Clarissa, you only see it very briefly at the. I think it might be the first scene that I appear in the film, and I have my arm around Clarissa. So she talks about me as being her boyfriend, and she talks about a sexual experience between our characters, where my character is supposed to be, as I think the words are, shaking like a leaf.
You should see him, though, when there are no other guys around, and he's alone with me, and he thinks he might get lucky. Shakes like a leaf.
So to me, that was a clue of a character that had some kind of confidence issue or some issue. My character has a Volkswagen, so it meant my character had some probably slightly better monetary situation than the other characters. That can even come forth in the dress, what I'm wearing. Because if you look at the clothes, it's slightly more, but carefully curated to an image that is being put forth, having to do with, again, compensating for something.
Kind of a silly question that I might ask you if I were doing a press junket for, but like, where would Layne be now? Or is that something you even think about with your characters?
Well, I'm assuming that Layne went to jail because he became an accessory to the crime by not reporting it and covering it. That's highly illegal. I assume he went to jail. And
yeah, I think logically that makes sense.
It's a movie that's definitely best left alone without a sequel. I do like that movie. I think it was well written, well directed, had a good score to it, and well cast and all of that. It's something I'm glad I'm in.
I totally agree with Linklater saying how we all probably grew up with some kid like Layne. Although it may seem like an odd performance when compared to others in the film, I think he actually sounds a lot like an authentic, immature teenager. You know, everyone forgets how awful we were as kids. We were like this weird whirlpool of raging hormones, unable to deal with all these new wild emotions, and we all probably said and did some awful things when we were young because we probably didn't have a grasp on basic human empathy. On the surface, it may look like this performance is just so wild and his choices as an actor may seem completely out of left field. But Crispin is a guy who knows what he's doing. He has a keen eye for what will make a character interesting and will take it to another level on a consistent basis.